I have Shin concerns. Not Shinkansen's. Shinkai concerns. Now before you dislike this video, unsubscribe, and tell me anime wasn't the mistake I was, hear me out. Makoto Shinkai is one of my all-time favorite directors, and his work has given me goosebumps more times than the freezing Canadian winter. That being said, I have serious concerns with his upcoming movie, Suzume No Tojimari. Makoto Shinkai has often been referred to as the next Hayao Miyazaki, but in my opinion, they could not be more different. What sets Shinkai's anime so far from the rest isn't the world building or fantasy setting. It's the relationships that he crafts in such an intimate way that you almost feel a part of them. The setting and spectacle always takes a back seat to the connection between the characters. Except for once, in what, in my opinion, is the only bad Shinkai movie in his over 20 years of directing. Children Who Chase Lost Voices, in which a boy saves Asuna from a dangerous creature and unknowingly drags her on a journey to a long-lost land bound to surpass her very imagination. And that right there is where I think this movie went wrong. I don't want Shinkai to surpass my very imagination. I want him to ground me in reality through the feelings that the characters share with each other. Whether or not there's time travel, asteroids, or even a flood is almost inconsequential. Now let me read you the synopsis for his upcoming film. A door of disaster that opens all across the archipelago. It is a road movie, a modern adventure story, and an action film. Obviously, that is a very brief way to describe a probably 2-hour-long movie, so it's still entirely possible that we'll get the emotional, intimate Shinkai style that we've come to love, but describing it as an action-adventure film really makes me nervous. Luckily, Shinkai hasn't made a bad movie in like 11 years, but I guess he also hasn't made that many movies in that time, so our odds are good, but not perfect. Weathering With You pushed the absolute limits of scale for a Shinkai film, and just barely skirted the line of being too big for its britches. And I think that might be why, despite how much I love this movie, it's the Shinkai film that I've seen the fewest times. I was really hoping his next film would rein it back in a bit, the way Garden of Words did after Children Who Chase Lost Voices. I feel like that movie was a turning point for Shinkai, where he took a step back and reevaluated what made Voices of a Distant Star and 5 centimeters per second so special. After the world-altering scale of Weathering With You, I was really hoping we'd get a more personal story, but from everything we've heard so far about this post-apocalyptic road trip, that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. In general, post-apocalyptic just isn't my favorite setting for anime. Or to live in, for that matter. But you could still tell a quaint, romantic story that just happened to be set in an apocalyptic world. Hell, Shinkai even managed to do that in a story that spanned the entire universe in Voices of a Distant Star. But despite being set... here? We never really left the inside of Noboru and Mikako's thoughts. From start to finish, all we cared about was their relationship to each other. Here's what we know about Suzume no Tojimari so far. The story follows 17-year-old Suzume, who lives in a quiet town in Kyushu. After meeting a young man, they find a door among modern ruins on a mountain. More doors start popping up, bringing disasters through them. Suzume's journey begins as she travels around closing these doors. So yeah, it's the anime adaptation of Monsters, Inc.
Put that thing back where it came from, also help me!
And perhaps my biggest Shin concern is the reason I watch his movies to begin with. Escapism. Which might be surprising given that my entire YouTube channel is based around anime realism, but hear me out. The majority of his films are grounded in a photo-accurate depiction of Tokyo, but with some sort of fantasy twist. But the characters and relationships themselves are completely grounded in reality. So it's a little odd to refer to his movies as escapism, the way you might with a Miyazaki film, which was clearly intended to sweep you away into a different world altogether. But for me, and I imagine lots of other anime fans, Japan sort of is a magical other world that represents something much deeper. Which might be the weebiest thing I've ever said, but hang on a minute, I'm not delusional. At least not entirely. Yes, I know Japan is a real place with real problems like anywhere else, but as someone who only gets to visit every couple years, to me it represents an escape from my mundane life as a Canadian salaryman. And watching anime that so closely represents reality gives me a little taste of the place I love going so much, with an added layer of fantastical perfection. So yes, I seek out reality in anime, but only in the timeless sense. The people, places, and feel of Japan. Not Japan as it is this very moment, but a fantastical, idealized version of it. Which brings me to this quote by the Shinkaiman himself. I began writing the script around the same time that Japan announced a state of emergency over the pandemic, which had a significant impact on the story. The mood of the times is indelibly etched into the script. In the grand scheme of things, most media is inherently a reflection of the current state of the world, but in this case, it seems to be quite a bit more literal. The events of the past few years have had a profound impact on me in a way that nothing else ever really has. And anime has been one way to take my mind off of that, which might not be something I'll be able to say about Suzume No Tojimari. Shinkai's movies are always about overcoming the distance between people, bridging the gap that separates all of us. Which can definitely still be the case in this upcoming film, it's just the language being used to describe it so far is making me far less excited to see it than I'd otherwise be. But who knows, maybe it'll be exactly what I need and connect with me in a way that none of his other films ever had before. In fact, Shinkai said that he wants his next movie to show everyone that no matter what happens, we'll somehow manage to get by. If you'd like to hear me discuss exactly what makes Shinkai one of my favorite directors to begin with, you can watch this video here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you neats next time.